listen, let me start, I suppose, once again, for those who are watching from Keir Starmer's office, with a bit of pragmatism for them. The reality, obviously, is that we have boundary changes coming around the corner, and those boundary changes will be forced through. The result of those boundary changes will mean that Labour will need an 8% lead in the polls to form a majority government. The harsh reality for a team of people in Starmer's office who right here now are concentrated in focus groups and trying to find policies out Tory to Tories right in the sun, to have a Union Jack behind you whenever you make a speech, is that once those boundary changes come in, there is no out Tory to Tories that will achieve power for Labour. There's just no chance of it whatsoever. There is no chance of Scotland coming back and red wall seats will be lost. There is no chance of Labour forming a government unless Labour has a transformative agenda that appeals to the country. Unless they have a transformative agenda where communities get behind it, unless you gain a movement that is in reality a revolution, you have no chance of gaining power again. And that was proven by the reaction in 2017, whenever we did touch the doors of 10 Downing Street. And no one within Starmer's office should be looking at 2019 in isolation of 2017. The truth of the matter is, it was probably Keir Starmer himself, whenever he chose to insert "and Remain will be on the ballot paper" in his speech to conference, that was the start of everything going wrong leading up to the 2019 general election. So my commentary to those who are pragmatists and those who are watching focus groups within Starmer's office is that you have no chance of gaining power, even with a minority government, under these boundary changes, unless you grab a transformative agenda that embraces the nations, embraces Scotland, talks of federalism, but talks of the issues that are relevant to today. And the thing that I would say, Steve, to anybody who's watching is those issues are right in our face. We know those issues right here now. Who is going to pay for this crisis? Is it going to be a repeat of 2008 when working people paid for it? Or is it going to be wealth taxes? Will we have a Labour leadership that will stand up and say, we want here and now wealth taxes? Are we going to see further unemployment? Or are we going to see a Labour Party that says we do not believe unemployment is necessary in a country that is so wealthy? Are we going to see the continuation of food banks, or will we see universal income? Or are we going to see the NHS privatised, or will we see somebody stand up for it and say that it must remain in the hands of the state? Are we going to see somebody talk about social services and the underlying need for them in our society in order to have cohesiveness? Are we going to see people stand up and talk about blatant racism and out it where you see it, regardless of the colour of the person's skin who is being racist themselves? Are we going to have somebody who talks for working class people and says that no longer is a minimum wage the maximum wage? Are we going to have somebody who says that we value teachers, nurses, doctors, cleaners, care assistants more than we value the CEOs of the top FTSE 100? Are we going to have somebody who talks about having a ratio of workers' wages to the boss's wages? Are we going to have somebody that talks for the issues that are going on in our communities, talks of nationalisation whenever it comes to broadband, talks of nationalisation whenever it comes to the green industry, talks of federalism, gives away power to people in order to make them more emancipated in their own communities? Are we going to have somebody who believes in socialism and can persuade the wider population that socialism is the key for our society? That's what we need now out of the Labour leadership. And if only for pragmatic reasons, they better get on this bus, because the bus that they are on has no chance. And as they've seen from a handful of electoral disasters, the bus that they are on right here and now is doing nothing but driving itself off a cliff, and will offer nothing for working class people, and will open the door to the far right to get into our communities and breed further racism. That's what's happening. Now, the future for the left, Steve, the left needs to come together. This is a lesson that we've heard coming out of the Unite General Secretary election, but it's also the lesson for the left groupings that are within Labour. We need to come together now in order to make a statement of solidarity and a statement of defiance against the leadership, because the reality for all of us in the left is that the right wing, the centrists, the moderates, the mainstreams, whatever they want to call themselves, I'm not sure when it became mainstream to support legislation that allows you to infiltrate the trade union movement and carry out crimes in the name of the state. But that's an aside. But the reality for them is they are nothing more than internal oppositionalists within the Labour Party itself now. Their whole focus is on the left of the Labour Party. They believe that unity within Labour is getting rid of the left, and that's their only focus right here and now, led by Mandelson, who is their chief architect in respect of looking for a central establishment party of Labour, rejecting socialism, leaning towards state funding and offering no alternative for society. The left needs to come together now and talk about our transformative agenda, reaffirm the role of the trade unions within the Labour Party, and present an agenda to the wider society that talks about nationalisation, talks about saving the NHS, talks about a new deal for workers, talks about the role of the trade unions, talks about having the state involvement in respect of green energy and the green revolution. That's our task now, and that has to happen urgently. The left unions and the left groupings within Labour need to come together before the Labour Party conference to give confidence to the wider membership and to give confidence to the wider voters that there is an alternative message out there, and that alternative message will prevail. And Steve, I'll finish by saying this solely. In the 1930s, there was countless literature written about the importance of the struggle. People had no place to go to. There was poverty all over the place. There was a lack of workers' rights. There were food banks all over the place. There were hunger marches all over the place. And people wrote about the importance of the struggle. And then fast forward to 1946, people come back from the Second World War and they say, we've had enough of this. We want our social state. We want the NHS. We want 1 million council houses. And we want a future for our kids and our grandkids going to third-tier education. We are right in the teeth of the same narrative as the 1930s. We have the food bank going along. We have in-work poverty. We have a Tory government that is racist. We have racism becoming part of society. We have refugees on the streets. We have the criminalisation of the homeless. We are right in the teeth of the 1930s. And what I would say to everybody is the answer then is the answer now. Be part of the struggle, be part of the movement, be part of your trade union, be part of your community. And through that struggle will come ideas. And those ideas will ultimately win the day because there is no alternative